What is up, my fellow criminals? Welcome to the Spyro 2 characters I would eat tier list. Oh, yes. Now, before we begin, there's a few things I'd like to say. I have quite a few entries here. I got these off of the Spyro fandom wiki, but there are a few that might be missing, so if I missed your personal favorite tasty character, let me know in the comments. And also, some ground rules here. Number one, each entry will be judged primarily by their value as food, but they will be judged secondarily by their utility to prepare food. So, for example, if we get a character that maybe isn't really that appetizing or is just like an inorganic character who you couldn't eat at all, but they have some sort of utility that could aid in food preparation, they will get points for that. But if I decide that a creature is inedible, even if they have the most utility possible, they will not be able to rise above B tier. Okay? We got that established? All right. And rule number 2 is I reserve the right to switch the entries around at will. I don't want to clog up the higher tiers, so there might be some movement between them. So don't get offended if your favorite gets knocked down a bit. These are in no particular order, so let's just get right into it. Here we have the Gorilla Thieves from Hurricos. Now, personally, I don't know if I'm a big fan of primate meat. I feel like it's just so close to human that I'm afraid that a lot of like weird diseases might be able to jump from them to us. You know, it's like how like HIV came from rhesus monkeys. So I do have I'm not fond of primate meat, so that already is a lot of points against it. I do think I would eat it in like an emergency. I think it would make good survival food, but as far as utility goes, I wouldn't trust this motherfucker as far as I could throw him. He is a thieving bastard after all. So while not completely disgusting, he's not good and kind of useless. So he does have some value being a meat flesh being that is edible. So we're going to put him in C tier. At least for now. Alright, now we have the weird, creepy pedophile tortoise from Sunny Beach. Now, personally, I'm a big fan of reptile meat, and turtle is the king of reptile meats. It's very good, and honestly, as far as utility goes, I think this guy could be trusted to work a chef as long as there's no children around. You know, I'm a single man with no children, so I would trust him in my own kitchen. So honestly, between his utility and his delicious, succulent turtle meat that I would love to stew up, maybe make some turtle fajitas. Oh, that sounds good, doesn't it? I'm going to go ahead and put this guy up in B tier. Yeah, I think he fits right there. Now we have the secret agent from Cloud Temple. Now this guy is a little bit too humanoid. So I don't know if I'd necessarily want to eat him. But he is a sneaky, crafty bastard, and in the best kind of way. He's also very honest, so while he doesn't really have any value to me as food, I definitely believe that I could use him to go on grocery runs for me. I think he's just intelligent enough to manage a list. So I could definitely use him to do a store run. You know, maybe I go through my cabinet and I'm like, oh no, I'm running low on pepper. I need to restock on pepper for this big recipe I'm doing. I feel like I could trust him to go down to the corner store and get some pepper for me. You know, maybe some energy drinks. I think that would work good. So I'm not going to put him in D tier, but I'm going to put him in C tier ahead of these thieving gorilla bastards just because I think he could be made quite useful. Now, we have the Alchemist. The Alchemist is a weird goat man, satyr kind of guy. Now, I'm a big fan of goat. Goat meat is really good. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Gosh. Goat meat, you couldn't really do steaks. You can do ground goat tacos. You could do goat kebabs. Just cube up some, maybe put it on a skewer with some onions. Some tomato, roast them over the grill. That'd be good. He also does have quite a bit of utility, because as an alchemist, while he is blind, I wouldn't trust him on grocery runs like I would with Agent Zero, but I do think his alchemical abilities could come in handy. Like, for example, he could probably work his magic on turning low-quality ingredients into high-quality ingredients. Let's say I have a bag of, like, Mahatma bottom shelf, like, medium length grain rice. He could probably brew up a potion that could turn it into nice, high-quality arboreal rice for a delicious risotto. And I imagine a lot of things like that. Maybe he could turn like low quality, bottom shelf ground beef into nice, like grass fed, high quality, ultra lean ground beef. I think the Alchemist has quite a bit of utility. And, if he fucks up and pisses me off, I can just kill him and butcher him, make sausages from his intestines, eat his delicious, succulent goat meat. I could probably pawn off his stupid glasses. So you know what? I am going to put this guy in high B tier, ahead of even the pedophile turtle man. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Ooh, and next we have the pelican people of Breeze Harbor. These guys are absolutely delicious. I've never eaten pelican personally, but I'm a big fan of poultry. I've eaten many a birds and I didn't hate a single one of them. Chicken, turkey, duck, quail, pheasant, peacock, it's all good. So I imagine pelican isn't bad either. I mean, hell, in France, pigeon is a delicacy. So you know what? This guy already has a lot of utility as food. Now, in terms of cooking utility, he lacks fingers, so he doesn't have much dexterity in the kitchen. I could use him as a little errand boy bitch, but honestly, I think primarily he would make a delicious meal. I wouldn't look at a creature like this and say, oh, I could enslave him to do my bidding. I would probably just kill and eat him. And for that raw food utility, but low cooking utility, well, let's say like his purpose as food and his low utility for cooking, I'll put him in B tier, just behind the goat, but ahead of the turtle. Sound good? Okay, now we have this very human Thornberry looking dude from, I believe, the Mystic Marsh. Now this guy is just a little bit too human to eat. Now look, I don't mean to be prejudiced against cannibals. If you like to eat people, I'm not judging. Who am I to push my lifestyle onto you? If you like eating human flesh, then by all means, don't let me stop you. It's just not my thing personally. As far as utility goes, I don't really know if I could enslave this guy, because he is very strong-willed. Just look at that mustache. So unfortunately, for the purposes of both food and preparation of food, he's largely useless to me. Oop, hold on, I got a burp coming. There you go, I hope you enjoyed that. I made some beef and kimchi tacos earlier. So, because this guy is mostly useless for these purposes, he's going to be our first D tier. Would not touch, would not eat, would not enslave. He's at the bottom. Now over here, we have the brown lizards from Glimmer. Now these guys, I imagine would actually taste quite good. As you can see, they're quite muscly, so there's plenty of meat on there. And reptile meat, I feel, is quite underrated. I've eaten turtle. I've eaten iguana. I like both. I imagine he would be more close to iguana on the taste spectrum. Reptile meat, for the most part, is very chicken-like, I would describe it. The taste is kind of hard to pin down. It's a little bit close, but in terms of texture, very chickeny. So honestly, this guy has a lot of utility as actually being a food item. Now, in terms of preparation of food, you can see he's got that hammer there. So I could definitely have him tenderize meat for me. Like, let's say I'm trying to eat one of his brothers, and I cut up steaks. I could have him tenderize that steak for me. And again, if he pisses me off, I can just kill and eat him. So this guy has quite a bit of utility. Very useful in the kitchen as a tenderizer, and very tasty as a failure. So I'm going to put him in B tier. I don't think he has quite as much utility as the Goat Man, but I feel like he is on equal level in terms of taste with the Breeze Harbor birds, but at the same time has greater utility than them. So I think putting him second in line in B tier is a good place to go. Hold on, let me sip my delicious tea. The delicious pu'er tea. Can't get enough, baby. Oop. Now the fire guys from the Skelos Badlands. Now, right off the bat, zero utility as food. You know, this one's a little too spicy for me, folks. However, he does have incredible utility in the kitchen. I mean, he's basically like a free energy machine for fires. I could make a weird like stove prison to enslave him in and use his heat to cook food. So basically just eliminating most of my gas bill. I could also, just as an extra utility, use him to heat my home and basically just wipe out the gas bill entirely. This guy has immense utility. So let's see here. He has no utility whatsoever as food, but incredible utility to help cook food. I cannot eat him, but I can use him very efficiently to eat other things. So I'm going to put him right behind the brown lizards in B tier. Again, no food value, but extremely high cooking utility. Okay. Next we have the satyrs from Magma Cone. Now, personally I'm conflicted because unlike the satyr goatman that we put at the top of B tier, these satyrs seem to have more human-like qualities, but at the same time they do look like they wouldn't taste too bad. They're not so human that I wouldn't want to eat them, but I feel like their meat wouldn't be as good as traditional goat meat or even as traditional as the Fractured Hills satyrs. So I'm kind of conflicted here. However, as a slave, I think they would do quite well. These creatures are fairly honest, so they're not too shifty, and they have hands with opposable thumbs, so I could easily make this man a sous chef. I could have him cooking right beside me. I can put him on prep work. And honestly, I think he has significant utility in preparing food, and he has some use as food itself. So I'm going to put him behind the breeze birds, but ahead of the weird Turtle Beach pedophile tortoise. Because while he doesn't have as much utility, I'd say he has more utility than the breeze builder, but I say he has less in the way of food, and that is the primary thing we're judging here. So I feel like behind the breeze birds is good. That's a good place for him for now. All right, next we have Zoe. Now, honestly, I'm not a big fan of pixies. I know people like to fetishize pixies. There's a lot of Rule 34 pixie content from all kinds of franchises, and I am just not into it. Also, they're gingers, so their meat is probably terrible even by human meat standards. However, they are magical. Now, what pixie dust can do changes depending on what fantasy world we're talking about. But I feel like I could enslave her in a little bottle and use her pixie dust as a seasoning to give my food some sort of maybe magical healing properties or some sort of status boon. Or God knows what. I would have to do some experiments. Maybe I could have the alchemist help me out. But I feel like, in terms of food, Zoe has very little value. But I think I can harvest her pixie dust as a spice. It could be quite useful. So you know what? I'm going to put Zoe in high C tier. The reason being 0 food value and potentially high cooking utility, but because I don't know the properties of the pixie dust, I can't place her higher. If I knew for a fact what that dust did, I might be willing to up her into mid B tier, but I think high C is good for her for now. Yeah, there we go. Now we have the small landlubber buckets. These guys, I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't trust in the kitchen. Because I can just imagine myself starting up the flame on a burner and them just spitting water and putting it out. I feel like these little mischievous bastards wouldn't be much of any use in the kitchen. And even as food, I don't know if I'd trust them, because the Zeppers are insects, and while there are some insects I would consider eating, these ones I wouldn't really touch. And also, you have the added problem of that they're usually in soapy water, and I can't imagine that this doesn't get into their system, as they tend to mouth it a lot. I'm just afraid that if I butchered them and tried to eat them, there would be a really unpleasant soapy aftertaste to the meat. So honestly, I'm going to put these guys in D tier, and I'm going to put them behind the human guy, just because they don't have a cool mustache. You know, human guy has that mustache, so he gets points for that. All right. Next are the two-legged camels from Scorch. Now these have some value. Camel meat is quite good. I really enjoy the flavor. I've eaten plenty of camel jerky. I've had plenty of camel meat. The only real complaint I have about camel meat is that it is quite stringy. The texture is very fibrous, much more so than chicken, but the flavor is honestly excellent. So, with this one, I'm kind of conflicted. I don't think it's good enough to be our first A tier entry, but I feel like this should place quite high in B simply for the food value alone. There's absolutely no utility for food preparation here, but I feel like the meat itself would be quite delicious. I could see myself eating one of these camels and quite enjoying it, going back for seconds. So I'm going to put him runner-up of B tier behind the alchemist, simply for his high value as food. Now we have the cat bats from the Skelos Badlands. Now these, two animals I've never eaten before, cats or bats. I've heard that cat meat is quite good. And honestly, I wouldn't mind trying some tiger meat if I ever got the chance in some Chinatown back alley. But there's a lot of variables here. Personally, if I were starving, I would definitely eat it. He looks like he would taste good, but unfortunately, because of my own lack of experience eating both bats and felines, there's a lot of mystery here, so I don't feel confident putting him in B tier. And honestly, I don't see any utility for him actually in the kitchen, like helping me cook. So I'm gonna put him in C tier. I'll put him, I'd say, behind Agent Zero, but ahead of these gorilla bastards, because I feel like his meat would be of higher quality than the gorilla, but just barely, and his lack of utility, I feel like, would put him behind Agent Zero in terms of usefulness. Next, we have a fodder. We have the caterpillar fodder from Zephyr. Now, a lot of people have a real big mental block when it comes to eating insects. Me personally, I have no such block. I've eaten roasted chili limon crickets. I think they're not bad. Caterpillar, I don't think I've ever had, but I can imagine if you cook it right, it wouldn't be too bad. Unfortunately, these things would be kind of helpless in the kitchen, so there's zero utility here. And the food taste is questionable at best. Edible, I think, for sure. You know, if you're dying of starvation, absolutely eat one of these little bastards. But it doesn't seem like something I would go for. You know, if you served me some roasted caterpillar, maybe with some like chili sauce or something, I'd try it. But I feel like it would be less good than the cat bats. So I'm going to put this thing behind the cat bats in C tier. That seems like a good place for it. Come on. There you go. All right, this one got kind of cut off, but this is a chicken. I forget exactly which world this is from, but I mean, honestly, it's chicken. It's good. Like, chicken is simple, and it's one of life's greatest pleasures. Simple, flavorful, nutritious, and incredibly versatile. These chickens are, I imagine, much like our chickens in that they are useless when it comes to helping me prepare food, but as food, they are excellent and a staple of diets all around the world. So I think this chicken, just by virtue of being our favorite little bird here to eat in the real world, he is going to be our first A tier. Chicken meat, absolute banger. I love it. You love it. If you find someone who doesn't love it, you should beat them in the streets because they're probably a terrible person. So, chicken, congratulations. You are going to be our first A tier. Let me just sip my tea real quick. That is good. Now, next, we have the main man himself, Spyro the Dragon. Now, Spyro, I'm not gonna lie, he has a lot going for him. Number one, he's a dragon, and dragon meat is just the filet mignon of mythical beast meat. I told you before that I'm a fan of reptile meat, and dragon meat is just heavenly. I could not imagine a better mythical creature to eat than a dragon. Hold on a second. There you go. Take that one to the bank, baby. So honestly, when it comes to food, food value alone, S tier, automatically. Dragon meat is the best mythical meat. Dragon meat fucks. I'm here for it. You're here for it. That being said, Spyro also has some utility in the kitchen. Wall a rebellious little fucker. I imagine if you promised him a nice vacation, promised him a nice lamb shank, he might be willing to do some work in the kitchen. He obviously has his flame breath, which could be of incredible utility in the kitchen. And honestly, I wouldn't mind having a Tom Kenny voice Spyro just riffing next to me while I cook. I think he'd make a great conversational partner. He can help me with the flambés. If I got a nice stir fry or a nice meat, I want a flambé with a little bit of white wine. He could raise the temperature immediately. Now, Spyro has incredible utility. So given his value as food and both a delight to have in the kitchen, I believe he's going to be our first S tier. Congratulations, Spyro. You're at the top of the mountain right now. And next we have the shaman from, what is this, Crystal Glacier? Now, he's too human for me to really enjoy eating, but at the same time, he is a magical shaman. So much like the alchemist, I imagine there are quite a few things he could help me with. You know, for example, let's say I'm running out of garlic. This guy could probably make a sacrifice to whatever crazy gods he worships or commune with the spirits in order to manifest more garlic. He could probably do this with many vegetables. So honestly, with very little utility as food, in terms of food preparation, I think he would be quite useful. So I'm going to put him ahead of Agent Zero, but behind Zoe in C tier. That's a good place for him. Next, we have the clam fodder from Breeze Harbor. Now, these guys, I gotta say, I get my mouth watering just looking at them. Now, seafood is very hit and miss for me. For example, other than salmon, there's not really a whole lot of fish I like. You know, maybe a bit of tilapia. I'll eat bass if it's served to me, but all in all, I'm not really that crazy about fish. Shellfish, on the other hand, I am an absolute Looney Tune about. Whether it's oysters, clams, scallops, shrimp, prawns, crayfish, I'll eat it all. Crab, lobster, so good. This, by virtue of just being a clam, I'm going to say it's going in A tier. I'm just looking at this guy thinking about a delicious clam linguine, clam chowder, or just straight clam meat. You can't go wrong. Clam is wonderful. Now, while I do enjoy clam, I feel like because clam isn't as versatile as chicken, he creeps just behind chicken in A tier. I think that's a fair place to put him at. All right. Next, we have one of the caterpillar men from Zephyr. Now, much like the caterpillar fodder, I don't see much value from this guy as food, per se. However, I do think he has substantial utility when it comes to food preparation. There you go, that's another one for you, baby. But as far as food preparation goes, look at him. He has a pot on his head, so you know he's good with soups and sauces. I could definitely see myself cooking right next to this guy. Maybe I'm preparing a nice delicious skillet cooked steak, or maybe some chicken fajitas, and he's right next to me preparing a delicious stew to go on the side, maybe creating a delicious spicy enchilada sauce. You know, I could imagine all kinds of things. No man would wear a pot on his head if he wasn't skilled with soups, if he was not skilled with soups and sauces. So I'd say based on his utility, I'm going to put him, I'd say ahead of the shaman. Mostly because this guy seems really incompetent. He just has that magical X factor. You know what? I'll put him ahead of Zoe too. I'll put him at the top of C tier, just because I look at this man and I see someone I can trust with a soup or a sauce. So based on his utility and food preparation alone, he's top in C tier. Now down here we have Crush. Now, Crush can't be pinned down to an exact animal, but he is a type of dinosaur. That's reptile. And I'm going to say, I would love to try some dinosaur meat. If they could, like, take some DNA from, like, the bone marrow of T-Rex remains and like, clone some Rex meat, oh, baby, I would pay $50 a pound for that sucker. I am a big fan of reptile meat, and based on that alone, I'm going to say that Crush has quite a bit of utility when it comes to actually serving as food. Now, for food preparation, I'm afraid he's a bit too incompetent to follow instructions. I think the most he could be is a tenderizer. So, based on his value as reptile meat and his lack of value for working in the kitchen, I'm going to put him in mid B tier, specifically behind the two-legged camels from Scorch. I think that's a good place for him. There we go. Next, we have one of the dolphin spectators from, I believe, the first Speedway. Can't remember what it's called, but he is a dolphin. And I gotta say, I would love to eat a dolphin. I've never had dolphin before, and I'm not just saying that because the government might be listening. I genuinely have never eaten dolphin meat, but God, do I want to. I've spoken about this many times in my videos, but there's a lot of endangered species I would love to eat. I would love to try panda meat. I would love to try eating a Bengal tiger. I would love to eat an African elephant. There are many animals that I would just love to butcher and eat. And dolphin is one of them. Now, I've never had dolphin meat, so I can't accurately judge the taste. But I think the fact that it is mammalian sea meat does give it an edge, and of course it is forbidden fruit. I'm going to put this dolphin man near the top of B tier, in front of the two-legged camel, but still behind the alchemist. The alchemist is holding strong because he does have good goat meat, but also his alchemical abilities could make him quite useful. Now this fucking abomination down here, what are they called? Dracults? They're basically mites. Now these guys might have some nutritional value as insects are mostly just protein and fat. However, I can't imagine one of these abominations tasting good, and honestly, looking at it just kind of kills my appetite. I want nothing to do with these fuckers, and they have absolutely no utility at all. Except maybe, like, they could spin silk, and I could probably make some good cheesecloth out of it, a fine silken washable reusable cheesecloth, but even that is a stretch. So I'm going to put these guys at the bottom of D tier, even behind these buckety blubbers. Next we have the boner hares from Cloud Temple. Now these guys have no value to me as food. None at all. I do not want to eat them. They do not make my mouth water in any way at all. However, much like the alchemist, I feel like their magical abilities could come in handy. Now, since food is the primary way in which we're judging these characters, he does lose a lot of points for having 0 food value, but I do think he could be used to either manifest or alter ingredients. And that is a very powerful skill. He could turn tiny, cheap, like 75, 80 a pound, like 75, 80 count a pound shrimp, the little tiny ones, and he could turn them into like 15, 20 shrimp. I feel like he could take some crappy, like, throwaway butcher dumpster trimmings of beef and turn them into filet mignon. These are just theories of mine, but magic is unpredictable. So I'm going to put this guy in C tier, just behind Zoe. All right, next we have this little jaguar guy. I forget his name, but he's one of the only normal animals in Spyro. He's just a spotted jaguar. Honestly, I'd love to eat him. I think he'd taste delicious. I am completely fine with killing and eating jaguars. I feel like he would taste quite good. Now, I wouldn't think he tastes so good as to put him in A tier, but I feel like he definitely belongs in mid B. I don't think I'd eat him as often as camel meat, but probably more than reptile meat, so I'll put him just behind the two-legged camel from Scorch. Now we have the Electrols from Hurricos. Now, personally, I have no idea what fucking animal these things are. I cannot identify them. I thought they might be birds, but they have mammalian noses. I cannot identify them, and they do not make me hungry. However, they do seem to have some sort of electrical conductive powers, as they have jolts of electricity beaming between the antennas in their heads. So I'm sure that I could use this guy to power all kinds of electrical appliances. He could not only power an electrical stove, but he could also power mixers. He could power a rice cooker. He could power all kinds of things. He could power my coffee maker. Based on his ability to provide electricity, he could essentially wipe out my electric bill. Now, I don't know the exact voltage and amplitude that he's able to produce, but I'll say that he could probably power anything that a single man living in a modest family home would need. So that is a very high degree of utility. Now, he has no value to me as food, but given his ability to help in the preparation of food, I believe he deserves upper B tier. So we'll put him just behind the two-legged camel. Yeah, that's a good place for him. Plus, he's voiced by Tom Kenny, so I'm sure he'd be very good to listen to. Imagine him just waiting for the rice to cook as he sticks the plug in his mouth, powering it, doing weird impressions. Maybe he'll stick it in his ear so he can speak clearly. I think I can enjoy the Electrol. Now next we have the ducks with the little floaties from Sunny Beach. Now I gotta say, duck meat is top tier. I actually like it more than chicken. And not to mention, duck fat is incredible. Duck fat is one of my favorite types of fat. I think the only fat I like more is beef tallow. So already, this guy has a lot going for him. Now, in terms of cooking utility in the kitchen, I don't really know what to do with this guy. I mean, he's got a shovel, but he uses way too much power to be an ice cream scooper or anything like that. I mean, I guess he could launch food into my mouth from 100 feet away, but honestly, I can't think of many scenarios in which I would need that. So, while he has little to no utility in terms of food preparation, I do think his meat would be absolutely delicious. So I'm going to put him middle of A. The only reason I don't put him ahead of chicken is because he's a fucking asshole. And honestly, it kind of pisses me off. That alone is enough to put him, I'd say, barely ahead of the clam, but barely behind the chicken. If this fucker didn't talk, or was just fodder that had no real, sapience to him, it was just like a sentient animal, I'd probably put him at the top of A. Because he's such a dick, we'll put him, nope. We'll put him just behind the chicken. And now we have the gear grinders. Hold on, I need a sip of my tea for this one. Love that tea. Now, honestly, I don't want to eat the gear grinders. They look like sweaty, middle-aged construction workers. And while quite sexy, This isn't a smash tier list. This is an eating tier list. And, well, I don't think these guys have much value as food. But in terms of utility for food preparation, I could see these guys fixing things around the house. You know, say my stove isn't working, I could imagine this guy fixing it right up. You know, got a leak in the gas line, I would trust this guy to patch it. Maybe an appliance is broken down, I would trust him to fix it. So while he has no value to me as food, I think he definitely has value as a repairman. So we'll put him in mid-C tier. Oh man, this is a tough one. The magical abilities of the shaman, I think, outshine his repair abilities, but I think his overall competence and along with his mechanical inclination puts him ahead of Agent Zero. So we'll put him smack dab in the middle of C tier. Yeah, I like that, right in the middle. That's where he belongs. Now the Earth Shapers. As far as I can tell, these guys don't have a gooey, meaty center, and they are essentially just sapient stone people. Now, this is an issue because he also wouldn't really have much utility in terms of food preparation. Too cumbersome, low dexterity, and honestly just too big. I don't think he'd even be able to fit inside of my home. And, well, unless the type of rock he's made of is like some sort of salt. Maybe if he were a giant salt crystal, he'd have some use to me, but unfortunately, this guy has no value as food and almost no value for cooking. Honestly, the only things I could even pull out of my ass here when it comes to food preparation is maybe I could if we're camping, I could put the stones, I could crush his body up into stones, throw them in a fire and use those stones to boil water in an emergency. Maybe put them on top of a Dutch oven to help cook some food. Maybe if I'm doing a fermentation like some kimchi or miso, I could grind his rocks up, clean them, and use them as weights to hold it all down. But honestly, that's stretching it. So we're going to put this guy in D tier. I'll put him above the Dracults, but behind the bucket blubbers. Oh, hold on, I need another sip of this delicious tea. I cannot get enough. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, this list is starting to come along. All right. Now we have the barely hatched chicks. Now, I've never eaten baby chick, but I imagine it would be to chicken what veal is to beef. And veal, if you don't know, is tortured baby cow, aka delicious. I love the taste of tortured baby cow, so I'd probably love the taste of tortured baby chicken. Also, I've heard in certain parts of East Asia, they eat fertilized duck egg, where it's basically a duck fetus inside of an egg, which honestly sounds like some good protein to me. This guy, I think, would have reasonable value as food. Although he has pretty much zero utility in regards to food preparation, as number one, he's just a baby. I don't think he'd be able to follow many instructions, and he doesn't even have any visible hands. And if he did, they'd probably just be little wing nubs. So we're going to judge this guy solely on food. And let's see here. I think he would be delicious as food. So we'll put him... We'll put him just behind the two-legged camel, but just above the electral, solely because I think he would taste delicious. Yeah, there we go. Oh, B tier's getting fat. Oh, man. It's looking good. Ah, Elora. Now, Elora would probably have some good goat meat, but unfortunately, she's a bit too anthropomorphic for my taste. She's got too many human-like qualities for me to really enjoy eating her. Although I wouldn't mind eating her sweet goat hole. She got that goat gussy. But unfortunately, this isn't a smash or pass tier list. This is a food tier list. I suppose I could have her as an assistant in the kitchen helping me cook. That wouldn't be bad at all. In fact, I think she would be quite pleasant. So, I'm going to put her, given she has 0 value as food, but reasonable value in terms of preparation of food. She doesn't seem to have any special abilities, but she seems perfectly competent and dexterous, so we're going to put Elora on top of C tier, just above our potmaster over here. Honestly, I could imagine these two helping me cook up a storm. We could start our own catering company. Next, we have the gear grinder robots. Now, obviously, being beings of pure metal, they have no value as food. However, when it comes to food preparation, I think we could turn these guys into little makeshift grills. In fact, if we do it right, have you ever seen those little egg-shaped grills? I forget the name for them, but they're really good. They can get to really, really high temperatures. I really just like the look of them. I think we could turn these robots into little egg grills, and we could have them on wheels so they're more mobile. So in terms of food value, absolute zilch. But in terms of utility for food preparation, I think they would make great barbecues. So I'm going to put them in C tier, but I'm going to put them in between the Zephyr Potheads and Zoe. Because again, I feel like the ability for this guy to make soups and sauces is a little bit more valuable to me than just a barbecue, but the barbecue is more valuable to me than some dumbass pixie dust. So I think that's a good place for the gear grinder robots. And next, we have the fat tiki idols. Now, again, being made of wood, they don't really have any direct food value. However, they do have value for kindling. If I want to do a campfire to roast marshmallows as he is in that little picture there, I think he would make great wood. And given that he does seem to have some magical properties, I could imagine him actually making great wood for a smoker. Imagine you want to make some smoked brisket. What are you going to use? Some cherry wood, maybe some acacia wood, maybe some mahogany wood if you want to get real expensive with it. How about some magical tiki wood? I feel like this would impart some sort of magical properties upon said brisket. Maybe you eat it and you get a little taller. You become a baller. Maybe you can run a little faster, jump a little higher. I feel like his utility as wood for a smoker is very useful. And you could also use them to make a nice little marshmallow roasting campfire. So I'm torn whether or not to put him ahead or behind the grills, the gear grinder grills. Because, you know what, I'd say we put him ahead because he can be used for campfire cooking. We could turn him into magical charcoal. We could also use him as a smoker, so he has more versatility, whereas the grill would just be a grill. So we're going to put him right here in C tier. I think that's a good place for him. All right. Now, we have one of the fish spectators from the Speedway. See, we can probably go this down. We'll go up for S tier. There's not going to be a lot of S tiers in this. So, again, He's fish. I imagine he would taste quite good. We can roast him over our magical tiki man fire. I'd imagine he'd be quite delicious. I'm not the biggest fish man myself, but I'll eat it if it's around. I wouldn't put this in A tier, but honestly, I'm feeling a good low B tier. I'm going to put him, I'd say, I'm going to put him on the bottom of B tier. I feel like his value as food is too high to relegate him to C tier, but I can't think of a single one up here in B tier that I would prefer less than him. So I think that's a good place for him. Now, the picture got cut off here, but we have the mermaid from the same level. Now, these aren't a typical Western fantasy mermaid with a human on top and a fish bottom. This is sort of just a fishy, scaly humanoid top on a fish bottom. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like them fish titties, but I feel like the humanoid characteristics would probably degrade the taste and texture of the meat for me. And honestly, even in terms of utility of cooking food, the personality of this fish is quite obstinate. I feel like she would argue with me a lot, and honestly, I can't tell if she has fingers or not. I would assume she has flippers, which means a very low dexterity, which makes a lot of tasks in the kitchen rather difficult. So honestly, she's not D tier, but I'm going to put her near the bottom of C. You know what? I'll put her just behind the cat bats. That's a good place for her. All right. Next, we have the fire hose Zephyr caterpillar monstrosities. Now, I do think these things are substantially more edible than the bucket variety. And they are less mischievous by nature. I feel like this guy would be good on standby if I was, let's say you accidentally started an oil fire in the kitchen. He could definitely spray things down. I know you're not supposed to use oil, or you're not supposed to use water on an oil fire. You should actually dump salt on it or just cover it. But I feel like this guy could be emergency response. But even then, that is fairly pushing it. I think the meat of this particular type of bug monstrosity is more so than a typical caterpillar. But I feel like his utility in terms of food preparation is kind of stretching it. So I'm going to put him ahead of the Zephyr caterpillar fodder, but behind the mermaid bitch. There you go, buddy. That's a good place for you. Now, the bee trees from Fractured Hills. Now, you might be inclined to say this one's quite low, but oh dear no, viewer. I could not disagree more. Not only is he made of wood, which means he'd be good for a smoker, good for a campfire. We can make charcoal out of him. He has quite a bit of utility as a tree. But he is not just any tree. He is a bee tree. Now, I love honey. And we don't just get honey. We get the whole hive, which means we get straight honey, which is really good. We get honeycomb, which is absolutely delicious. If you've never had honeycomb, you can find it commonly at most Mexican grocery stores, and it is oh so delicious. You can just bite into it. But we also get beeswax, which we can use for all sorts of things, including candle making. Let's say you're bringing a date over to have a nice romantic dinner at home. You can make homemade beeswax candles. So when your date says, where did you get these nice candles? You can say, I made them myself from the beautiful bee trees I recently just killed. And she'll be like, oh my god, you're so sexy. Please fuck me now. Works every time. So I think, considering he has both a lot of value as food because of the beehive, he also has incredible versatile utility when it comes to food preparation and general dining atmosphere. We're going to put him high B tier. In fact, I'm going to put him just behind the alchemist. I think that is a wonderful place to put him. Ooh, and what do we have here? We have the yaks from Colossus. Now, I gotta say, I am a big beef fan. I love beef, and I've eaten many different bovines before. I've had beef, I've had ox, I've had buffalo, and they are all good, all distinct in their own way, but it's a very similar taste palette, if you will, a family of meats, all of which are good. So, based on that alone, I'm going to say, while I've never had it, I have great faith in yak meat. And also, these adorable chubby boys are loaded with delicious yak tallow. So you know that meat is going to be extra flavorful. And we can render a year's worth of beef fat off of this guy to keep us fat through the winter. So this guy is going in A tier. In fact, this may be controversial, but I'm going to put him at the top. Beef ranks higher than chicken in the hierarchy of meats. You also have the fact that he is just oh so adorable. And we can cut his belly open and render all that delicious fat. It's just so versatile. I can just see some yak tacos. I could see some yak steaks. Some yak jerky. Some yerky. Oh my golly gosh goodness. I would love to kill and eat this motherfucker. So yeah, he is at the top of A tier. Second only to Spyro. Hold on a sec. Let me get a nice tea sip here. Ooh, that is good. Very relaxing. Next, we have the incels from Idle Springs. If you don't get that joke, go watch my part of the playthrough. These guys like carving wooden sex dolls out of their magical tiki wood. Now, I don't get hungry from these guys. They do not look appetizing in the least. However, they are carpenters by nature, which means they have a great deal many uses. I could use them for not only chopping wood for a wood burning stove or a smoker, but I could actually use them to build things. Let's say I want to set up an outdoor cooking area, or maybe I'm having like a 4th of July party, and they could build a nice serving table. They could build me a nice shaded awning. While having very little direct food preparation experience, they could definitely have a lot in the way of creating a good dining atmosphere, which as far as I'm concerned, does play a role in food preparation, as the atmosphere in which you consume food does have a direct link to the enjoyment of said food, and so I say it counts. If you disagree, go fuck yourself. Make your own dumbass video. This one is mine. So, I'm going to put the Idle Springs incels. You know what? I think their carpentry skills are very useful, but they would be limited. I would only use them rarely. So I'm going to put them behind the Gear Grinder grills, but ahead of Zoe. So they'll be upper C tier. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Ooh, and next we have these frog fodder from the Autumn Plains. Now, I must say, I'm a fan of frog meat. Now, it is very seasonal, but we do occasionally get frog legs at my local grocery store, and they're quite good. Oh man, burping just thinking about it. Frog meat is very similar in taste and texture to chicken, but it has its own unique qualities. It's hard to describe if you've never had it, but it is quite good. Frog leg. Many people have a hang up about eating frogs. They see those frog legs, they might get a little grossed out, but honestly, they are so good. And really, if I stripped the frog meat from the bone, ground it up, and told you it was a chicken taco, you probably wouldn't tell the difference. So these guys, I'm going to put them in A tier. I don't like frog as much as I like clam, so we're going to put them just behind the clams. I like them more than anything in B tier, but I don't like them more than anything in A tier, so I think that's a good spot for them right now. Now next are the Norks, the showman orcs that we see in Dragon Shores. Now honestly, I cannot pin a type of meat on these guys because they don't really look reptilian, nor are they mammalian, avian, amphibian. They're kind of hard to place. I mean, they're certainly fat, so there's definitely some fats that we can render from them. I can't say anything about the quality of said fat, but it is a quality. I honestly, their meat might be good, but since I can't pin a good taste onto it, it's kind of up in arms because it could be terrible. Oh, geez, this is a tough one. In terms of utility for food preparation, they are quite intelligent, they are quite dexterous, and they are showmen. I could imagine myself in a food truck having these guys out front advertising, barking on the street, saying, "Hey, come have some of Cody's delicious shawarma. Cody's shawarma is the best shawarma in town." They could definitely invite quite a great deal of customers to my food truck. Honestly, I think any form of street vending, any form of street food, these guys would be quite good for advertising, and I'm sure they'd be quite competent in the kitchen, although I feel like that would be a waste of their potential. So I'm going to say, based on their utility and possible value as food, I'm going to put them in high C tier. I'm going to put them behind the Zephyr potheads, but ahead of the Tikis. That's a good place for them, wouldn't you agree? Now we have the shamans from Skelos Badlands. Now again, much like the Crystal Glacier shaman, the magical properties are quite good in terms of improving food quality of, if you have like low quality ingredients, you can magically transform them into high quality, magically summon food ingredients, but I don't want to eat these guys. I really don't, and they're quite low IQ. In fact, I'd say they're lower IQ than the Crystal Glacier morons, so I'm going to put them right behind Crystal Glacier. I think that's a good place for them. Nope. There you go. Get in your place. Oh, probably about mid C tier. Now these guys, these are just straight up goats. Okay? They are from Colossus. They are quite delicious. I could imagine making nice goat skewers, maybe some goat shawarma, goat kebabs. There's a lot of things you could do with these guys. You could also use their horns as cups to drink delicious, delicious mead. In fact, I didn't even think about that. You could make mead from the bee trees and drink them out of the Colossus goat horns. Wouldn't that be quite something? I'm a big fan of goat meat, and also I'm a big fan of goat cheese. So if we could find a female for this to mate with and then milk the shit out of her and make goat cheese, oh my goodness, we'd have so much going for us. So honestly, I am a little biased because I very much enjoy goat meat. So I'm going to put this Ooh, I might lose you guys on this, but I'm gonna put it right behind the yak above chicken. Goat meat has very high versatility, just like chicken, but honestly, I love the flavor so much more. I don't know if I like it as much as I would yak, but I definitely think high A tier is the place for it. Now, next we have the little girl from Scorch. Now, she is probably like the most human looking thing, so I'm definitely not eating her. Also, as revealed in the level outro movie, she also seems to be a weird, freaky demon monster. If I tried to have her in the kitchen, she'd probably fucking kill me. But she's significantly cuter than the Dracults, so she would probably cheer me up just seeing her cute smiling face. So we'll put her in low C tier. The reason why low is because number one, she's evil. Two, she's a child, so I wouldn't really trust her around a lot of dangerous kitchen equipment. I would put her ahead of the Earthshapers, but unfortunately I find the Earthshapers incredibly attractive and I really want to fuck them. And I'm not a pedophile, so the child does absolutely nothing for me at all, has no use as food and little use as utility, but is slightly better than the Dracults. So that's my rationale for putting them there. Now these guys, the Arabian sword purple guys, I don't even know what they're fucking called. Well, a little tea sip. Now, with these guys, we run the same problem as we did with the Norks. I cannot identify a species or even general family in which they might belong. So I can't say much about their meat, and also, unlike the Norks, they're very lean, so we don't have much in the way of fat rendering. However, they do seem quite dexterous, they have hands, and they're also very good with a sword. I could probably have them on meat cutting duty. So let's say I'm making some barbecue, and I got some large cuts of brisket, I got some large... maybe some like tenderloin. I could have him serving my guest, cutting the meat for them directly at the table. You could probably carve a mean Thanksgiving turkey. You could probably also help prepare food, chopping onions, chopping vegetables, maybe chopping up meat for a stew or curry. I could see this man having quite a bit utility. So honestly, based on his utility alone directly in the kitchen, I'm going to put him above the Nork Showmen. The Nork Showmen do have some potential for their fat, but given that the mystery meat is hit or miss, I don't want to rank them too high, and while I do appreciate their showman abilities, their utility is substantially less than that of these sword guys. Now, should I put them ahead of or behind these Zephyr potheads? You know what? This may be controversial. This might break the internet. But I'm going to put them ahead of the potheads. I'm putting them behind Elora because I feel like Elora is a good all-rounder. She would probably do quite good in the kitchen, and she'd look good while doing it. And I could smell that sweet, sweet, sweet Gussie. But at the same time, the Zephyr potheads do have really good ability with soups and sauces. I feel like if I wanted to make a nice stew, I wanted to prepare all manner of sauces, a nice Asian sauce, a stir-fry sauce, a char siu sauce, a sweet mitarashi sauce for dango. We could prepare a curry, an enchilada sauce, all kinds of stuff that we could do with him. But I think his skill set is ultimately limited, as I feel like the Arabian swordmen have a little bit more versatility when it comes to food preparation. So I think they'll go just slightly ahead of the Zephyr potheads. Now, Gulp. Gulp is much like Crush. He seems to be a Triceratops, but with 2 horns instead of 3. His dino meat I can imagine being quite delicious. In terms of cooking utility, there's almost none. However, he is very, very muscular, and I imagine if of Gulp's species, we would get substantially more meat per kill than even with Crush. Now, Crush does have some utility for food preparation in terms of tenderization, but he doesn't have much more in the way of intelligence than Gulp. And given Gulp's substantially greater meat content, and since food is the primary thing we're rating here, I'm going to put him just ahead of Crush. I'm going to put him ahead of Crush, but behind the white snow leopard. Yeah, that's a good place for him. Yeah, behind the Electrolls. I think that's good. Now we have the awesome monk Volcells from Colossus. Now, unlike the Incels from Idle Springs, I actually do kind of want to eat these guys because they're very piggish. Sure, they do have some anthropomorphic qualities, but they seem more pig than man, and I imagine they would taste quite good. Also, it's explicitly stated that they are vegetarian, so we have some good grass-fed pork. And they are also very intelligent. They have some telekinesis abilities, which I could imagine I could find many uses for. Imagine you're cooking a stew and you have each individual ingredient floating above it. I could command him to drop each one in the perfect time so we get the perfect amount of cooking on each individual ingredient. Nothing is worse than a stew in which everything is dumped in at the same time, after all. You know, something's going to overcook if you do it that way. So I think, based on his intelligence, he does have quite a bit of high utility when it comes to food preparation, and he also has substantial value when it comes to being food himself. So basically, I could have him as my slave cooking for me, and if he fucks up and pisses me off, I can slit his throat, drain his blood, and butcher him like the porker he is. And he would be quite good. So we're going to put him well into B tier. In fact, okay, this may be controversial. I'm going to put him ahead of the Alchemist. Yes, I know this may shock some of you, but well, the Alchemist does have they're more goat than man. They do have too much anthropomorphic qualities, which I feel would lower the quality of their goat meat. Whereas the anthropomorphism of the Colossus Volcells is less, and I feel like they would be closer to pig meat. So overall, I think the taste would be quite superior, and while the difference in utility for food preparation might be debatable, I feel like overall the Colossus Volcell monks would do they eke out the Alchemist by just a little bit. I don't think they're quite good enough for A tier, but they're definitely up there. Ooh, more tea. Hold on, baby. Okay. So down here we have the hippos. These guys are from what the hell is that world called? It's the weird Arabian world. It's a sister world to Scorch. I forget what it's called, but it's a cool world. But the problem is, I fucking hate hippos. I think they're fucking evil. Hippos are some of the most brutally violent animals on Earth. However, I do think they would taste good. Unfortunately, this character in particular is a child, so their utility for food preparation is quite limited. Being that he wears an Ottoman fez, he is likely somewhat Turkish, at least, vaguely Turkish adjacent. And Turkish food is quite good, so even as a child, he probably has some cooking ability. He could probably help me make a mean kofta, some nice baslama bread. Ooh, yeah, he can make some good Turkish coffee. And if I don't like it, I could probably kill him and get some hippo veal. This one's a tough one. I don't think he has nearly as much utility in the kitchen as, say, the Colossus Volcells. Nor do I think he's as useful as the Alchemist. But I think overall, given his potential as food and his overall Turkish cooking knowledge, potentially, let me think. The bee trees have so many different uses, but oh man, this is tough. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and put him in between the alchemist and the bee trees. Just because I'm biased towards Turkish food. So I think that's a good place for him. Plus, if I happen to have any Muslim guest over, I'm sure he can give me some good advice for making halal dishes, so I do not offend, Let's see here. Some of these, by the way, are from Reignited because I couldn't get a good pick of the low poly versions, but these are the horned rabbits from Crystal Glacier. Now, it's hard to say exactly what a horned Crystal Glacier rabbit would taste like, but what I do know is rabbit meat is delicious. Some whole roasted rabbit, just some rabbit drumsticks. I honestly, rabbit meat isn't as versatile as some of the other meats on here, but boy, is it good. It's also very lean, too. One of the leanest meats in existence. So, to all my bodybuilders out there, if you're looking for some good, lean protein, rabbit is the way to go. So, honestly, I would put this higher than the two-legged camel, but I don't know if I lust for rabbit meat anywhere near as much as I do for dolphin meat. So I'll put him in between the two, up in upper B tier, but like the lower upper B tier. I think that's a good place for the horned rabbits. Next is Hunter. Now, Hunter is very clearly a cheetah. Now, I've never eaten a feline, but honestly, I have good faith that they taste well. I mean, look at Mongolia, China, Vietnam, all these other places. There's got to be something to it, I must say. I'd be willing to try feline meat. However, as I've stated, the proximity to humans probably does dampen their meat quality. As me personally, I wouldn't really want to eat human. Again, nothing against cannibals. If you like killing and eating people, you do you. It's not my job to tell you how to live your life. But for me personally, the proximity to the human form does lower the quality of the meat. So I'm going to put him in B tier, mid B tier, ahead of Crush, but below the snow leopard. Oh, my mouse is acting funky. Yeah, there you go. Oh, no, behind the snow leopard. Yeah. There we go. That's what Daddy wants. Now we have these guys from the Mystic Marsh. Much like the boner-haired guys, honestly, probably not going to eat them. They do not look appetizing at all. However, these guys are significantly less cunty than the boner-hair guys from Cloud Temple. So I'm going to put them just above the Cloud Temple boner hairs. Yeah, there you go. They could help me in the kitchen, I'd imagine. They'd have some magical abilities. I think that would be good. Next is the Ice Wizards. Now, as being made of ice, they don't really have much utility in terms of eating. I mean, they're water, so I guess, but they're frozen, so you could just kill them and make a bunch of ice cubes, but honestly, I feel like that would be a waste of their potential, as they have the ability to cast freezing spells so potent that they can quite literally freeze their enemies on contact. I could honestly imagine enslaving this guy in some weird, freezer prison. Imagine turning a room into a walk-in freezer merely by chaining him against the walls. It'd be good for meat storage. Also, we could just maybe cut him with a chisel every now and then as a form of torture and get some nice magical infused ice cubes. Definitely very useful there. We could also use him in all manner of frozen desserts. We can use him for flash freezing, all kinds of things, honestly. I'd say his utility is very high. Now, in terms of where I would place him, gosh, I'd put him... I'd say I wouldn't put him as high as the Nork showman, but we'll put him right behind. Like right there in upper C tier. Next we have the indigo lizards from Glimmer. Now these guys I think would be quite tasty. I wouldn't say they have as much utility as their brown lizard counterparts, as the brown lizards would make great meat tenderizers. But their meat I think would be quite good. They also don't have nearly as much meat on them as their more buff brethren. So I'm going to put them right behind the brown lizards. I'm tempted to put them behind the fire guys from the Skelos Badlands, but unfortunately, because of their complete and utter lack of value as food directly, I can't justify that. So, blue lizards go right behind the brown lizards. Now, these guys, I thought they were spiders, but it turns out they're actually June bugs. Now, insects have less food utility than most, food value as most, and as an insect it has no utility for food preparation. But I feel like, again, rub some chili lime spice on this guy and it would be fine. Maybe roast him a little bit. I would put him higher than the Zephyr caterpillars, but I wouldn't put him above the land blubber firemen. So we'll put him right there at low C tier. Yeah, I think that's looking good here. I feel like I can justify this so far. Now the ladybugs. Honestly, most of what I just said about the June bugs from Idle Springs could apply to the ladybugs from Glimmer. I don't know what ladybugs would taste like. Probably about the same as a June bug, if I'm being honest. The June bugs do look a little bit meatier, so I'll put these ladybugs in between the June bugs and the caterpillars. Yeah, there we go. Now, we have the big stone idol from Idle Springs. Now, looking at this thing, it's not wood like the tiki idols. It does appear to be made of stone or some type of ceramic. I think this thing has about zero value as food, obviously. But I'm not gonna lie. I think if we employ the services of the Idle Springs incels, we could turn this thing into a bitchin' smoker. I'm serious. This thing would make a fantastic smoker, especially if you've got a lot to do. Like if you're cooking for a festival, or you just have a huge family gathering or a big party that's going to have like 50 people, you could have this really good decorative smoker. And given the tiki theme, it would be really great for a luau. You could do an entire smoked pig in there, maybe a few smoked pigs. So, in terms of utility, I'm going to go ahead. He has zero food value at all, but very high food preparation utility. So I'm going to put him above the ice wizards and just below the Norks. Well, I do believe his utility is less than that of the Norks. Or actually, sorry, greater than that of the Norks. The Norks do have some ambiguous value as food. Again, very fat, so we could render their fat. And I'm sure their meat probably isn't terrible, but I also can't identify it. But they do have some value as food, which puts them slightly higher than this idol. Now, honestly, the more I'm looking at this stupid ape and the more it's pissing me off. The purple monkey thief at the bottom of C tier, I'm going to go ahead and move him to D tier. And just because he's slightly more edible than the mustachioed man, we'll put him at the top of D. Let's see, who else can we move around while we're here? I'm looking over this really quick. Am I overestimating that? No, I think the magical abilities can come in handy. I think this is fine for now. Next, we have the lizards from the Skelos Badlands. Now, these guys, probably quite good. They do seem a bit lean. They are quite skinny. In fact, I'd say they seem to have less meat on them than the indigo lizards from Glimmer. But I imagine they would taste quite good. I mean, I don't think they have much utility when it comes to food preparation. So you know what? I'm going to put these guys just behind the indigo lizards in B tier. I think that's a good place for them. I'm trying to be I don't want to rate things too high because I want this tier list to stand for all time. I don't want to oversaturate A tier. But now we have the lava lizards. Now, these guys, they're smaller and they don't have much meat. However, looking at them, I feel like their meat would be of good quality. I don't know what it is about it, but they just look extra succulent. Sure, they're quite lean and they don't have much meat on them, but I feel like when it comes to food, I would rather go with quality over quantity. Quantity is important because, running a slaughterhouse can be a lot of work. Butchering is a lot of work, so you want to get a lot for your take. But I don't know, man. Maybe it's just because I see them chewing on bones. I imagine the marrow, it would do something to just, that in their diet would make them taste a little bit better. But again, they also have almost no utility when it comes to food preparation. So, where should I put these guys? I'm going to put them in between the brown and indigo lizards in B tier. I think that's an excellent place for them. Yeah, that's looking good. All right. Now we have the young Earth Shapers from Magma Cone. Honestly, we run the same problem here as with the big Earth Shapers. They have no food value at all. However, these guys do have slightly more utility when it comes to food preparation, as they could actually fit in my house. And they seem to have a much greater dexterity than the regular Earth Shapers. So you know what? I'm going to put these just above the Fractured Hill Earth Shapers. Just because I seem like they would be slightly more useful as slaves. That's a good place for them. Now, next we have the Skelos Badlands Fodder, these little lizards. Now, honestly, lizard meat, I'm a fan. I think it's definitely better than all of the insect fodders. You don't get very much per kill, but I imagine it would taste quite good. I could see you gutting this thing, putting it on a wooden skewer, and roasting it over a campfire. So you know what? Because I think they have a lot of value as food itself, and of course no utility. I don't think any of the fodders really have much utility in regards to food preparation. No, I'm going to go ahead and put them near the bottom of D tier. Because I like reptile meat, I'm going to put them above the fish, but behind the pedophile tortoise. I think that's good. Let's take a look at our list so far. Spyro is still untouchable in S tier, but, oh man, B tier is getting too fat. Is there anyone here? You know what? The Electrolls. I feel like they're rated a little bit too high, simply because I find absolutely no value in them as food. So again, this may be controversial, but I think they're mostly creatures of utility. And even then, it's mostly just electrical power, which is a very specific thing. I wouldn't really trust them much for cooking in almost any other field of actual direct cooking. I'm going to demote them to C tier, but I'm going to put them in relatively high C tier. I don't think they're as good as this bitchin' smoker, but I think I would... Oh man, this guy is used for all frozen foods. Oh geez, this is a toughie. But I could use this guy to power a freezer. You know what? I'm giving the Electrolls the edge just because they're voiced by Tom Kenny. So I'll put them above the Ice Wizards. Yeah, I think this is good. I think this is fair. Okay, next we have the capybara pilots. These are from one of the speedways, and I can't for the life of me remember. No, honestly, they're capybaras. I'd imagine in terms of taste, they'd be similar to bear meat. And well, I'm not crazy about bear meat. It is good. Uh, and they seem to have enough. If they can fly a plane, honestly, they could probably do a lot of different tasks around the kitchen. So I feel like these guys could be justified in B tier. Just because, mostly because of their meat. I imagine it would be similar to bear. Let's see, where do I want to put them? I prefer tortoise meat over bear. So I'll put them above the fire lizards of the Skelos Badlands and below. Oh, okay. Obey me, mouse. Okay, we'll put them above the fire lizards, but below the pedophile tortoise. All right, let's see here. Moneybags. He's a bear. I mean, he is good. But, actually, I was going to say he'd probably charge me. He'd find a way to, like, just sue me for slaving him. Or he would find some way to extort money out of me. But at the same time, I think killing and eating him would be uber satisfying. Do you know what? Fuck it. We're going to put him in B tier. Just because I want to kill and eat this motherfucker. Hold on. Let me fix my mouse real quick. Let me just... it's running low on battery, so I've got to plug it in real... Get in there, you fucker. Yeah. Fill that hole. Good boy. Come on. Oh god, have I broken it? Oh, Moneybags, you broke my mouse, you son of a bitch. Okay, there we go. We're back. Okay, Moneybags as a bear would taste good, and killing him and eating him would be ultra satisfying. So you know what? We're gonna load him up in high B tier. I wouldn't put him as high as the dolphin, so we'll put him just below that. Yeah, I could see that. That's looking good. Okay, now the monkey. Not a big fan of the primate meat, but he is good at finding coconuts, which I enjoy quite a bit. I like making my own coconut milk for curries, and honestly, coconut water, really good to drink. Coconut milk is really good for cocktails. If you've ever tried coconut milk with Malibu rum, it's very good. But then again, that only applies if I'm around. If I'm in a place with coconut trees, honestly, we'll put him in C tier. Where should we put him? You know what? Again, the primate meat and his limited utility. I'll put him above the cat bats. But yeah, he's going in low C tier. That's his place. Now, Mr. Bones. I found this really funny gif of him dancing. It's hard to judge his ability to cook in the kitchen, because it's like, is he dependent on a steady supply of magic? Is it one and done with the shaman, like, and he's just alive forever, or does he have to keep the shaman around? I don't know. However, I do know, as a man made of bones, he would be excellent for making broth. So he actually does have good food utility. We could crack him open, eat the marrow. So, let's see here. I'm going to put Mr. Bones ahead of Zoe, but, I'm going to put him slightly ahead of the incels. The Idle Spring incels have a very useful utility, but it's also very limited. I can use the bones for a lot more. I think it's more well-rounded. Now, we have the peacock fodder. I'm going to be honest, bro. Peacock, it's good. How I would cook it, Just whole roasted peacock. I would pluck the tail feathers, roast the peacock, and then like when serving it, I would put the tail feathers, like I would like skewer them. I would like attach them to skewers and like put them in the butt. So it's like, uh, it looks like it just has. It would be a really nice display. I would feel like a Roman emperor. I think it would taste really good. So I'm gonna put it in B tier. Actually, you know what? I'm putting it in A tier. Fuck that. Peacock is delicious. So we'll do high A tier. I'll put him. Gosh, this is a tough one. Chicken is more versatile. Yeah, I think the versatility gives it an up. I'd put peacock ahead of. Actually, no, you know what? Would I? Oh, Peking duck sounds really good right now. You know what? I'm putting him behind the duck. He belongs in A tier for sure, but behind the duck. Man, we're running out of space. I'm gonna have to zoom out the page. Like, can I just do it from here? No, I can't. Hold on. I'm gonna have to zoom out a little bit. Let me pause for one moment. All right, I have zoomed out a little bit, and we can get a better view here. Gosh, this tier list is coming together. Oh, look at that. Spyro's sitting happy on top. Look at that guy. Look at him. Oh, he's so cute. I would love to fucking kill and eat that beautiful little bastard. Okay. So, what do we have next? We have the penguins from Colossus. Now, these emperor penguins, I'm very curious to try penguin meat. It looks like it would be good. It is poultry. And honestly, this is going to go for both Colossus and the Winter Tundra penguins. Honestly, I'm going to put these both in A tier. I'm going to put the Winter Tundras. Let's see, where should we put this? I'll put this. Peacock is really good, so I'm going to put the penguins behind Peacock. But the Winter Tundra penguins are going to go ahead simply because they have significantly more meat on them. I think that's fair. Wouldn't you guys agree? No. Oh, we got the pigs from Fractured Hills, baby. That's just a straight pig. No fuss, no muss. That's going, I'd say, right behind the goat. I love pig meat. Pork is really good. We can just, again, we could just luau this guy. We could make we could put him in the giant Idle Springs smoker. Have some nice smoked crackly skin pig. Ooh. God, I love pig. I don't love it as much as goat, but I like it more than poultry. So I think that's a good place for it, honestly. These ones are extra fat too, so we can get a lot of lard rendered from them. Oh yeah. Now we got the professor. Honestly, probably the least appetizing one on here. And he doesn't have a sexy mustache, so we're going to put him behind the mustachio gentleman in D tier. Not a fan at all. Now the platypi from Mystic Marsh. This is a hard one because I have no idea what a platypus would even taste like. They're like one of the hardest to classify animals ever because they have mammalian characteristics, but they also have avian characteristics. Are they like beefy, ducky, berry? I can't place them. And when you consider that these particular platypi also seem to have pufferfish qualities, for all I know, they could be poisonous. They could be fishy. Now, fugu is quite good when prepared skillfully, but I don't know if I'm skillful enough to prepare it without poisoning myself. So, honestly, there's too many questions for me to ask to feel comfortable eating this thing. So you know what? You might hate me for this. I'm going to put it at the top of D tier. I'd put it above these purple gorilla motherfuckers, but I don't trust it enough to put it in C tier. And there's like no, it doesn't have any utility for food preparation. Now, these guys, the rams, all capron meat, I'd say, is pretty good. Whether it's regular billy goats, whether it's rams, antelopes, kudus, whatever you want. I'm rating these guys pretty high. Now, whether I should put these guys in front of the billy goats or behind is hard to say. Well, let me get a good look at these guys. Gosh. These guys seem to have a little bit more meat, but they also seem significantly leaner. These guys seem to have, they're just a little chubbier. I feel like the meat would be a little more flavorful, or we could just render the goat fat better on the Colossus ones. So you know what? It's close, but I'm going to put these rams ahead of the pigs, but behind the Colossus billy goats. I think that's fair. Now we have the rat fodder. No, like, I'm not against eating rats, but these rats don't have a lot of meat on them, and that look in their eyes, I don't like the way they're looking at me. They look really shifty. So you know what? I trust the rat meat more than the platypus meat, but I feel like they're too shifty to put in C tier. So we'll put them at the top of D. I'd rather eat them than starve to death, but not exactly a delicacy. Now, the lizards, the little asshole na-na-na-na lizards from Glimmer. These ones, they look like they taste good. Not gonna lie. But at the same time, you get so little meat per kill. Oh, man. This one's hard. Do I want to put them in C tier or B tier? You know what? I think the meat is fine. I'd put them above the Sciolose fodder lizards just based on their amount of meat per slaughter. So I think that's a good place to put them. Now the riflemen, much like the Arabian swordmen, I can't pin them to a species. They don't make my mouth water. I don't want to eat them. But they do seem like they'd make pretty decent hunters. So, you know, if I wanted to get some venison, I could probably take them down to the forest during hunting season, and they could probably bag me a few good deer. Honestly, outside of hunting, I don't see much utility. I can't see them cooking up a meal. Gosh, I'm going to put them in C tier. I'm going to put them behind the incels. Just because the incels have a lot of carpentry abilities, which I would consider more useful. Let's see, who's that? Now we have Ripto. Again, I can't place Ripto. He seems to be vaguely reptilian. He's not a dragon, but he also has like almost no meat. And honestly, that's kind of a deal breaker for me. Because he looks like he'd be just like really bony. He's got scrawny arms, a small torso. And he's just kind of a dick. Oh, man. I don't feel good putting him in C tier. He's too good for D tier. But, he does have magical powers. But again, if I tried to enslave him, he would probably find some way to usurp my authority. I'm going to put him above the gear grinders just because he does have some food value and magic value. Oh, hold on here. Oh, this is troubling. I feel like his magic... You have to balance the magic with the fact that he's a fucking asshole. So, man, I'll put him above the boner hairs from Cloud Temple, but below the Mystic Marshes. And this is mostly just based on personality. See, Ripto is the kind of evil that, like, it wouldn't even be satisfying to eat. Like, with money bags, I feel like the act of killing and eating him would be satisfying. But Ripto, it's not the same. I don't know. I feel like that's a good place for him, though. Now, down here we have the mechanical bees from Robotica Farms. Now look. I'm going to do all 3 Robotica Farms at once because they're all the same to me. I don't think they're hollow looking, so I don't think I could turn them into really any tools. They have absolutely no food value and really just no utility whatsoever. So all 3 of them are going in D tier. And honestly, I'm going to put them near the bottom of D tier. How am I going to order them? I'm just going to order them based on how cool I think they look. So the grasshoppers will go above the stingers, and the beetles will go above the... will also go above the stingers. I think that's fair. Gosh. Now the metal sharks, again, have no real food value, but I feel like if we brought them off to land, we could turn them into a nice smoker, a nice 2-tier barbecue. So I think they have some value. Now should I put them ahead of or behind Mr. Bones? Because the gear grinder grills would be really cool. We would just like we'll just clean out their circuitry and like turn them into a grill. The mobility does give them an advantage, so... Gosh, this is a hard one. I value the utility of the grills over the broth-making power of the bones, because I feel like it's just more like universal for cooking. So we'll put him in between Mr. Bones and the gear grinder robots. That's good. Now these guys, I have no idea what fucking animals they're supposed to be. They probably taste good, but much like the Norks, you run that ambiguous area. I would eat them, but I don't think they'd be top tier. And in terms of utility, it's 0. I feel like their meat would be higher than the coconut monkeys from Scorch, with no utility, and the monkeys have like coconut gathering skills, but just based on the higher quality of their meat, I'm going to place them slightly higher than the monkeys. They'll go right ahead. I feel like they have yet less utility than Agent Zero. Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, now we got the sheep here. I'm going to be honest. I love me a lamb shank. In fact, I prefer lamb over goat. You can make lamb shanks. Lamb kebab is the king of kebab. You want to make a nice Turkish kofta with lamb. Ooh, baby. You can make a good shepherd's pie. It's one of the only good Brit foods. Oh, man. I got to say, this is going in A tier. Lamb isn't quite as versatile as like a bovine beef kind of meat, but I'm going to put this right behind the Colossus yaks. And I mean right behind. Okay, what? No, not the bottom. Oh, shoot. Hold on, we got to scroll up. Okay. There we go. I think that's fair. Yeah, and I feel like the yak is just a bit more versatile. If we're going just based on flavor, I would put the sheep above the yak. But the yak also has more versatility in terms of what I can do with it. And it also has significantly more fat. So the yak ekes out a little bit, but it is very, very close. This is probably one of the closest on this tier list. But I do feel comfortable putting it behind. Gosh, we're going to have to zoom out again soon. Oh, now we got Sheila from Fractured Hills. Now again, this isn't a smash tier list. But again, she does have quite a bit of dexterity. I could see myself putting her in a cute little French maid outfit, smacking her ass and making her cook for me. And if she has a problem with it, I can kill her and eat her because she's a goat woman. Now, she is kind of a ditzy bimbo, so she probably wouldn't be as good in the kitchen as Elora. And honestly, I wouldn't even give her the same superb utility of the Arabian guys. But I feel like she'd be more useful than the pot-headed Zephyr guys, so we'll put her in high Z tier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good place for her. Now the thieves. Okay, we have this Arabian sword thief. This guy probably could be good at cutting stuff up, but he's also a fucking thief. I wouldn't trust him. And I feel like that kind of nullifies all of his utility. And when it comes to this thief, I can't identify them. I can't identify their meat. I don't even know if they have meat. For all I know, they could just be incorporeal shadow people. So honestly, I'm calling D tier. I'm putting them slightly above the... You know what? Just because they could potentially be useful, I'll put them at the top of D tier. They might. If you like put them in a prison cell and force them to cut stuff, they could probably be useful. So we'll put them at the top of D. Now we have the kebab tikis. These guys have significantly less wood than the fat tikis that we have up in upper C tier. But they do know how to make a mean kebab. So I guess much like some of the others, I could keep them around. They would be good servers at luau's. I could keep them around handing out kebabs. And if they piss me off, I can just kill them and use their wood in a smoker. You know what? Because of their fancies for kebabs, I'll rate them higher than the fat tikis, but just barely. I think that's a good place for them. And we have more of the Arabian thieves. These guys are fucking useless. All they do is steal. They don't even have the cutting utility of the sword thieves. And the Dracults are disgusting, but that's also just how they are by nature. These guys are thieves, so they're morally bad, and they have absolutely no redeeming qualities in the kitchen, so bottom of D tier. I have spoken. Now, rhino meat. These are the rhino snails from Mystic Marsh. Now, honestly, escargot is good. I don't know if these guys would have that chickeny escargot taste. Rhino meat, while I've never had it, it does sound good. In fact, we're going to do some on-the-fly research here. I'm going to find out what general family of creatures the rhino is so I can get an idea of what they might taste like. Let's see here. What family does the rhino belong to? Rhinoceratidae. Let's see. Is there anything close that I've eaten? Okay, the capybara seems to be the closest in relation to them. Gosh, this is hard to call. I think B tier is where they're going to go, but I'm going to put them below the capybara, simply because they don't have as much meat. But I imagine their meat would be more flavorful than the little asshole lizards. Now we have the snail fodder from the same Mystic Marsh. Honestly, escargot, it's good. Again, people have a lot of hang-ups about eating bugs. And it depends on the species. Snails are actually quite good. Yeah, there's a lot of good ways to cook them. They've been eaten since Roman times and probably before that. You know what? I'm putting them in A tier just because they are like a legitimate real-life food. I'm going to put them beneath the frog, though. So they're going... Let's look at A tier over here. Okay. A tier, we've got, in order, we've got the yak, the sheep, the goat, the ram, pig, chicken, duck, peacock, big penguin, small penguin, clam, frog, and snail. I think that's fair. That's what I'm going to go with here. Gosh, man, we might have to zoom out soon. All right, snake. Honestly, same thing. Snake is really good, actually, if you've ever had it. It does taste a lot like chicken. Unlike other reptiles, it's actually a lot closer to chicken in taste. Most reptilian meat you'll hear compared to chicken, but with snake, it's especially true. So I'm going to rate these guys pretty high on B tier. Gosh, let's see. We're going to put these guys, I like snake, but I like clam more, so we'll put them ahead of the frog. That's a good place for them. Okay. We have these. These guys are from the Sunny Beach world, but I have no fucking idea what animal these guys are. And honestly, the only utility for food preparation I could see them having is going clam fishing, which is very limited. Man, honestly, I don't even think these guys are C tier. See, D tier is stuff that has either that I would just never eat. I could see myself trying this, whatever it is, but I don't know, man. I feel like it's about, I'll put it bottom of C tier. How's that? I see less value than even the insects. I'll put it above the insects just because it'd probably have better tasting meat, but still, it's low C tier for me. Let's see. Now these snow guys. I could honestly think of a lot of things to do with these. Not to mention, first of all, snow cones. They'd make incredible snow cones. I'd imagine coldness as just one of their properties, so they probably stay cold in the summertime. I can't imagine them just melting in the sun that easily. Maybe they would, I don't know, but honestly, I could imagine some bitchin' snow cones with these guys. They could also make, I could mix them with fruit, blend them up, and make a nice sorbet. I made a good honeydew sorbet not long ago, and it came out quite fire. So, these guys, I'd put them in C tier. I'd say they have more viability as food than the ice wizards. The ice wizards have a lot of utility for food preparation, but I feel like as food to be eaten, these snowballs have it. They have just a little bit. They're a little bit better. So I'll put them in between the Electrolls and the Ice Wizards. I think that's fair. All right. Next we have the Space Cows, which honestly are just fucking cows, okay? They're just cows with space helmets. I think they taste delicious. I don't think they're as good as yaks. I think they're not as fatty as yaks either. So I'm going to put them pretty high in A tier. Let's see, where should we put them? Oh, man. You know what? I prefer goat to cow. Yak, I think, is better because of its exoticness, and this specific yak is really fatty. I'll put it above the pigs, but below the caprins. I think that's fair. That's good. I mean, honestly, this is a pretty good looking stack. Yeah, I like this a lot. We can do this. This works for me. Okay, now we have Sparks. Honestly, there's almost no meat on this guy. The only thing I could see him being useful for is maybe some magical dust. But even then, honestly, I see very little use for him. Oh, man. This is hard. He has less meat than even the fodder insects, and his magical dust powers are debatable in their usefulness. You know what? I'll put him at the top of D tier. I feel like that's fair for Sparks. Now we have the starfish fodder, I believe, from Sunny Beach. This is tough. I've never eaten starfish. Apparently it's good. But I'd rate this definitely higher than most other fodder. Oh, where would I put this guy? There's no utility, but it does have some value for meat. I'll put him at the bottom of B tier solely for his meat. So I put him beneath the fish even. But I think it'd be good. Now we have the monkeys from Mystic Marsh. Honestly, these guys, I would put them worth even less than the coconut monkeys from Scorch. But I'd put them above the cat bats. So I'll put them just behind the Scorch monkeys simply for their... The Scorch monkeys have more utility for food preparation, so they're going there. Next we have the really big tikis. Now these guys are they just got a lot of wood. That's it. They have a lot of magical wood to put in the smoker. More so than the fat marshmallow tikis. But I feel like the kebab expertise, I feel like the kebab tikis not only are good at making kebabs, but they could also use their metal shields as like serving platters. So I'll put these big tikis in between the fat marshmallow ones and the kebab ones. I feel like that's good. That's a good place for them. Now we have the lady tikis. This is a little bit different because this tiki is ceramic, not wood. At least that's the impression I got. Now, she wouldn't make like a bitchin' smoker the same way the big idol would. But you know what? I could see like clearing out those plants from inside her. I could make her a really good tandoori oven. A good tandoor oven for making naans, tandoor chicken, like all kinds of stuff, honestly. Yeah, I feel like her utility as a tandoor puts her pretty high. I'd say higher than the gear grinder grills evenly. I love tandoor ovens. I'll put her beneath the other tikis. Gosh, would I? The magical wood smoke makes them a little better. You know what? We're putting her. Yeah, we'll put her behind the tikis. Yeah, I think that's fair. In fact, we could use the tiki wood to cook inside of her. Wouldn't that make her better? You know what? Fuck it. I'm putting her at top. I'm putting her above. You know, we'll put her behind the kebab server. I still like this guy. Oh man, could you imagine like some magical wood heating up this tandoor? Oh man. Okay, and next we have the vultures. I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm prejudiced against vulture meat. I really don't like the idea of eating scavengers very much. I know pigeons are technically scavengers, and they're like a delicacy in France. There's just something about vulture, man. It just conjures up images of disease. I don't know. It might be good, but again, this is a tough call. I'm going to put them in C tier. I'll put them above the monkeys. You know, I'm putting them behind the monkeys. Simply because, like, they could be good. This is a bit irrational because it is just my own prejudice against them. But I'm going to put them ahead of the cat bats because they're probably significantly less likely to have coronavirus. But behind the monkeys. I think that's fair. Okay, the warlocks, I'm going to be honest, I fucking hate these guys. They do not look appetizing. They're complete fucking assholes. They're not as immoral as the useless thieves. But honestly, I'd prefer a Dracult over these guys, so we're going to put them near the bottom of D. And that's our tier list, everybody. So let me just zoom in real quick and we'll do a nice down scroll of the tier list. Hold on a second. Let me just pause the recording real quick. All right, guys. So this is the spread. Now at top, the only S tier meat, and I feel like this is justified, is Spyro himself. This the delicious, succulent, magic-infused dragon meat would just be you couldn't compare anything else to it. And plus, Spyro's fire abilities give him quite a bit of utility. At the top of A tier, we have the Colossus Yaks, because not only do they have good yak meat, you can also get some yak milk, yak fat. I think that's justified. Right behind him, you have the lambs. Very delicious, very versatile. Oh, succulent, succulent lamb. Then you have the goats and the rams, both of which very versatile, very delicious. A lot of people complain about the gaminess of goat, but honestly, I love gamey meat. Behind them, you have the space cows, which, I mean, honestly, they're just fucking cows. It's good beef. You have the Fractured Hills fat pigs. Look at these cute little guys. Don't you just want to eat them right up? Beneath that, you have the chicken fodder. Again, it's chicken. It's good shit. You have the duck. The duck is only behind the chicken because duck, I feel like, is slightly less versatile as chicken. Chicken, you can make in almost fucking anything. But in terms of flavor, I would rate this higher than the chicken. Then you have the peacock. The peacock, I feel like, would have as good flavor as the duck, but is less versatile than the duck. Beneath that, you have the penguins, the meaty penguins of Tundra, the less meaty penguins of Colossus, the delicious clams of Breeze Harbor, the snakes of... I don't remember where these guys are from, but the snake fodder is good. I mean, snake meat is delicious. The frogs from Autumn Plains, very, very good. I could make some tasty frog legs. And we got some escargot from the fodder of Mystic Marsh. Now, in terms of B tier, we have, I'm not going to go into detail about these because they're not as impressive, but we have the Colossus Volcells, the Alchemist Satyr, the Hippo, the Bee Trees, the Dolphin Spectator, Moneybags, the Horned Rabbit, the Two-Legged Camel, the Newborn Duck Egg, Gulp, the Spotted Jaguar, Hunter, Crush, the Brown Lizards, the Lava Lizards, the Indigo Lizards, the Red Skelos Lizards, the Fire Guys, the Breeze Harbor Pelicans, the Magmacone Satyrs, the Pedophile Tortoise, the Capybara Pilots, the Rhino Snails, the Asshole Lizards, the Skelos Badlands Lizard Fodder, the Fish Spectator, and the Starfish. Now in C, you have Elora, you have Arabian Swordman, Sheila, Pothead, Zephyr, Nork Showman, Smoker Idol, Electrol, you have Snowball, Ice Wizard, Kebab Tiki, Tandoor Oven, Umbrella Bitch, Fat Tiki, good for wood burning, Smaller Fat Tiki, the Gear Grinder robots, the Shark robots, both good for making grills out of, Mr. Bones, an excellent source of broth, the Incel Carpenters that can be used to build all sorts of cool stuff, the Rifleman Hunters, Zoe, the Mystic Marsh assholes, Ripto, the boner-haired Cloud Temple assholes, the Shamans from both Crystal Glacier and Skelos Badlands, the Gear Grinders, Agent Zero, whatever the fuck this thing is, the Coconut Monkeys, the Mystic Marsh Monkeys, the Vultures, the Catbats, this Sexy Fish Lady, the Zephyr Caterpillars, or, you know, the Land Grubbers, I guess. Whatever the hell this fucking thing is from Sunny Beach. I don't even know how to identify that. Then we have the Junebug Fodder, Ladybug Fodder, Caterpillar Fodder, and down here in D tier, we have Zoe, Sword Thief, Rats, the Platypus Puffer, the Orange Gorilla, the Mustachioed Man, the Professor, the Small Land Grubber, the Child Earthshaper, the Adult Earthshaper, this evil little demon girl, these Robotica Farm animals, if you could even call them that, the Dragholts, the Warlocks, and the Dirty Fucking Thieves. Overall, I feel pretty happy with this, and I just noticed I put these here in B. I don't know why the fuck I did that. Little parentheses. But yeah, this is a pretty good looking list to me. Let's do a nice slow roll down. Let's get a good look at that. I'm happy with this. If you would place any of these in a different spot, or you think that this is just completely whack, or if I missed one that you really like, please let me know. It was fun. My name is Cody Schmody, and until next time, I will see you criminals later. Bye bye.